नमस्कार दोस्तों, आप सभी का स्वागत है आपके अपने चैनल IITIAN मैकेनिकल वाला पर। आज की क्लास की शुरुआत हम करने जा रहे हैं लॉ ऑफ पॉलीगन माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, और वी कैन से polygon law of forces my dear friends, which is used to find out the resultant or net force of a number of forces acting at a point on a body my dear friends. So let us start today class. Very important. Resultant of a number of forces my dear friends. Resultant of a number of forces by polygon law. By polygon law of forces my dear friends. So we can say polygon law of forces. Okay, very important my dear friend. You can take polygon law, that is nothing enough. That's okay. So this is polygon law of forces my dear friends. And first condition is my friend. Forces must be co-planar and concurrent. Very important my dear friends. Not forces must be co-planar and concurrent. All forces my dear friends. All forces must be co-planar and concurrent. So now first, what is polygon law? उसके बारे में पढ़ते हैं my dear friends. Polygon law. ये लॉ कहता है एक से ज्यादा फोर्स जो कि कोप्लैनर और कंकरेंट है बॉडी के किसी पॉइंट पर अगर लग रहे हैं तो इन सभी का जो रिजल्टेंट होगा वो उस पॉलीगन लॉ की जो क्लोजिंग साइड होगी जिसको हम अपोजिट ऑर्डर में लेंगे उसके द्वारा रिजल्टेंट की वैल्यू हमें मिलेगी और डायरेक्शन मिलेगी। इफ ए नंबर ऑफ forces acting if a number of forces acting simultaneously at a point on a body or on a point are taken in same order along the sides of polygon, sides of a polygon, polygon, then the closing side, my dear friends, then the closing side of that polygon will represent the resultant then 120 will represent the magnitude and direction of that of the resultant of the resultant in the Resultant, my dear friends. Be careful. So this is polygon law. For example, my dear friends, now I am taking one force, this one as P1, my dear friends. So let me take first some arrows, okay? Then we will move to next. We will name this, okay? Now I am going to take three forces, my dear friends. Let me take three forces over there on this point, something like that. Let us suppose this is what P1, this is P2, this is P3, and this is P4. So we are given with these four forces, my dear friends. Be careful. P1, P2, P3, and P4 are what? These are coplanar and concurrent forces, my dear friends. Acting on a point, acting on point. Oh, my dear friends. Oh, let us go. This point is oh, my dear friends. Okay, on a body, my dear friends. And this force acting simultaneously means एक ही टाइम में लग रहा है, my dear friends. इस point of the body के ऊपर. Be careful. So now ये polygon law क्या कहता है? हमें ये force given है, my dear friends. तो इनका resultant हमें निकालना है. तो हम एक polygon draw करने जा रहे हैं. So यहाँ पर चार force हमारे friends. सो अब इनसे हम पोलिगन ड्रॉ करेंगे तो ये हमें फोर्स गिवन होंगे, इनके डायरेक्शंस हमें गिवन होंगे, ये एंगल्स जो भी एंगल्स हैं इनके बीच में वो हमें गिवन होंगे, और इसी पर्टिकुलर डायरेक्शन या एक्स एक्सिस इसको या वाई एक्सिस के साथ इनकी जो एंगल्स ऑफ या इंक्लिनेशन है फोर्सेस की वो हमें गिवन होंगे, उसके अकॉर्डिंग फिर हम आगे ये पोलिगन लाइन यूज करेंगे माय फ्रेंड्स. सो नाउ अब गिवन तो एक पोलिगन की इस पे साइड से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, लेट अस सपोज. So be careful, my dear friends. So I am now going. Now I am going to take this P1. Okay, my dear friends. So what the next? Okay, this is P1. Just get this like that. Okay, let us put this in. Even first we draw this, my dear friends. We will take this on the side of polygon. Then P2, my dear friends. You need to start then from there. P2 goes with something like that, my dear friends. Then you need to take P3, my dear friends. Be careful. So, and let me take 1 minute rest because I need to take it from where now my dear friends. Let me take it fast. Because otherwise, so this is P1. Then P2, my dear friends. Over there, we will take P2. Then my dear friend P3, then P4. Okay. So then P3. And then P4, my dear friends. Like that. Okay. So be careful. So what is this P1? This is P2. This is P3. This is P4. Let us suppose this point is A point, my dear friends. This point is B point. So first leg is a different leg. So we get right to picture there. That will get different. Okay. This is A point. This is B point. This is C point. This is D point, my dear friends. This is E point. So this my difference. Now we are going to taken in same order, my dear friends. This being P2, P3, P4 forces. What are given? Okay, what we are given with. Okay, because आपको ध्यान से लेने हैं. इसके बाद अब हम polygon को close करने जा रहे हैं with this side, my dear friends. From A to E, then A to E, my dear friends. Join A with this D point, my dear friends. Okay. Now, and what you did this then? Very important that we take it somewhat different color. So, okay, this color. So now join this with this, my dear friends. Be careful. Now what is this for now? This is the resultant R, my dear friends. So this is polygon law, my dear friends. तो जब हम ऐसे P1 P2 P3 P4 P4 को हम ड्रॉ कर लेंगे, बाद में हमें क्या करना होगा, यही को एक पॉइंट से हम मिलाना होगा और तब हमें रिजल्टेंट आर यहाँ से मेजर करेंगे। अगर एक ग्राफिकल मेथड है तो हम ग्राफिकल मेथड में यहाँ से पहले इनको स्केल पे ड्रॉ करेंगे, P1 को P2 को P3 P4 को, उनके एंगल्स हमें गिवन होंगे विद रिस्पेक्ट टू अ पर्टिकुलर डायरेक्शन। सो वी वुड बी एबल टू ड्रॉ इट ओके लाइक दैट। सो ग्राफिकली अगर हम करने जा रहे हैं तो यहाँ पर फिर हम इन लेटर्स को स्मॉल लेटर्स से शो करेंगे, A B C D E जो लेटर्स हमने लिए हैं उनको स्मॉल लेटर्स से शो करते हैं ग्राफिकल मेथड में, ध्यान रखना आप सभी को। नाउ अब मैं अभी आपको जस्ट पॉलीगॉन ला के बारे में बता रहा हूँ, फिर हम ग्राफिकल मेथड पढ़ेंगे और एनालिटिकल मेथड पढ़ेंगे रिजल्टेंट के बारे में, उसको कैसे निकालते हैं, उसकी डायरेक्शन कैसे निकालते हैं। तो ध्यान से रखना, अभी जस्ट मैं कैपिटल लेटर ले रहा हूँ जस्ट नेमिंग के लिए, तो आपको ध्यान रखना है। तो नाउ फिर हम क्या करेंगे, रिजल्टेंट आर की वैल्यू हम देखते हैं ग्राफिकल मेथड से कैसे निकलेगी और एनालिटिकल मेथड से कैसे निकलेगी। लेकिन पॉलीगॉन ला कहता क्या है कि अब अगर आप ए को ई से ज्वाइन करते हो तो आर विल बी द रिजल्टेंट, उसकी जो डायरेक्शन होगी ए को आपको ई की तरफ लेके हैं, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, इन अपोजिट order. First you take like this A to B, P1, then B to C, C to D, D to E in same order. But result would be in opposite, my dear friends, opposite direction. Be careful. A to E. So इसकी वैल्यू मेजर करेंगे फिर हम, अगर ग्राफिकल सेंटीमीटर में कुछ नहीं होता फिर चेंज कर लेंगे जो भी है whatever स्केल के हिसाब से। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं। तो दिस इज पॉलीगॉन लॉ माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, बी केयरफुल ओके। और वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट माय डियर फ्रेंड्स हियर, आई एम टेलिंग यू वन थिंग मोर इंपॉर्टेंट, इफ r is 0, if resultant if resultant r comes 0, comes out to be 0, then always, then this force is individual forces by dear friends, P1, P2, P3 and P4 would always be in equilibrium, my dear friends, in equilibrium। What does it mean equilibrium, my dear friends? Equilibrium का सिंपल सा मतलब है, सीधा सा साफ तौर पर मतलब है नेट फोर्स इज जीरो, नेट टॉर्क इज जीरो। नाउ फोर्स हम ले रहे हैं तो नेट फोर्स इज जीरो, अगर टॉर्क लेते हैं यहाँ पर तो नेट टॉर्क जीरो हो जाता है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। So what does it mean? Very important, my dear friends. Equilibrium means net force is zero. That force means resultant, my dear friends. Be careful. Resultant R here is zero. अगर ये फोर्स P2 P3 P4 अगर ये इक्विलिब्रियम में है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, ऑलरेडी इक्विलिब्रियम में है, तो इसका सिंपल सा मतलब है कि जो रिजल्टेंट आएगी उसकी वैल्यू जीरो आएगी माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। बी केयरफुल, देन आर वैल्यू बिकम्स जीरो इन इक्विलिब्रियम, आर वैल्यू बिकम्स जीरो, बी केयरफुल, then this value will not come when you will draw P1, you will draw P2 P3 P4, automatically this E point will coincide with A point, my dear friends। अगर ये फोर्स इक्विलिब्रियम में है, जब आप ड्रॉ करोगे P2 P3 P4 को, जब E पॉइंट आप ड्रॉ करोगे माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, वो A के साथ कोइंसाइड कर जाएगा। E will coincide with A, R value become zero, R value become zero, E comes close to A and approach it, coincides with it, R becomes zero, my dear friends, be careful। सो नाउ आगे बढ़ते हैं। अब रिजल्टेंट को एनालिटिकल और ग्राफिकल अप्रोच से कैसे निकालते हैं, पॉलीगॉन लॉ की मदद से या एनालिटिकल अप्रोच यूज करके। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, तो इंपॉर्टेंट। सो नाउ रिजल्टेंट, फाइंडिंग ऑफ रिजल्टेंट माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, फाइंडिंग ऑफ रिजल्टेंट बाय रिजल्टेंट बाय ग्राफिकल मेथड माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, बाय ग्राफिकल मेथड, बी केयरफुल। और इसके अंदर हम यूज करेंगे Gauss notation का my dear friends, Gauss notation is used. Be careful. So now what I'm going to take simple my dear friends, simple forces. Okay, be careful. So in graphical method में हम क्या करेंगे, मैं पीछे बता देता हूँ graphical method my dear friends. That would be very very easy. ग्राफिकल मेथड में हम क्या करते हैं माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, सपोज हमें ये फोर्स गिवन है, सो वी आर गोइंग टू यूज ग्राफिकल मेथड नाउ। So we need to take some appropriate scale, my dear friends. So now try to understand in graphical method. So let me take one. Okay. That's okay. So some scale is assumed, my dear friends. Some scale is assumed. So क्या करेंगे हम लोग, इसके अंदर हमें जो प्योर सोर्स गिवन होगा उसको हम स्केल में एज्यूम कर लेंगे, P2 P3 P4 जो भी आप करना चाहो. Very important, my dear friends, be careful. So in graphical methods, okay, so let me take you to next here. Okay, so I am taking force right now. So let me do it fast. Let us suppose you are given with this force, my dear friends, P1. Okay. Then another force we are given with another force, P2. Then another force, P3, my dear friends. And then another force, P4, my dear friends. Something like that. Okay. We are given with this. Four forces we are given. This is force P1. So this is P1. Let me take different color, my dear friends. Okay, this is P1, this is P2, this is P3, and this is P4. Suppose we are given with this. Acting at a point, my dear friends. This force is acting at a point. Okay, be careful. So this is what? This is space diagram, my dear friend. Space diagram, or you can say configuration diagram or position diagram. Position diagram, my dear friends. Or you can say it space diagram, position diagram. It is given. And you need to take first. This is very important, my dear friends. Something in different way you can take like first try to just 1 minute, my dear friends. So what we need to do in this 1 minute just. Oh, sorry for that. First, it's okay. Let me try different. Just 1 minute, my dear friends. So where is that? Yes, okay. So let me take this as given. There is another force acting K2, another force K3, my dear friends. Something like that. K3, okay. Now I'm taking like that, okay. Now important. So this is, let us put P1, this is P2, this is P3, my dear friends, okay. Acting at a point of, my dear friends. Be careful, okay. So this is what space diagram or position diagram, my dear friends. Space diagram or position diagram. Position diagram, okay. So now हमें ये configuration diagram given है. Point the force P1 P2 P3 point of they act करे, my dear friends. Be careful. From O plane में concurrent forces है, ये आपको ध्यान रखना, my dear friends. वो मैंने पहले बता दिया. हमारे क्लास O plane में concurrent forces के बारे में. So यहाँ पर हम क्या करने जा रहे हैं? Polygon law का यूज करने जा रहे हैं और हम graphical methods का यूज करने जा रहे हैं. तो आपको ये एंगल हम मान लेते हैं. Suppose this angle is suppose theta 1, my dear friends, and this angle is what? Theta 2, my dear friends. And let us suppose this angle is what, my dear friends. You can take it as 360 minus theta 1 plus theta 2. आपको दो एंगल गिवन होंगे, my dear friends, theta 1 और theta 2. आपको ये एंगल की जुटनी है 360 माइनस दोनों एंगल का सम कर दो तो आपको ये इस वैल्यू की एंगल की वैल्यू मिल जाएगी. P1 और P3 के बीच में जो इंक्लूडेड एंगल है. इंपॉर्टेंट. आगे बढ़ते हैं, my dear friends. नाउ एनालिटिक हम ग्राफिकल मेथड यूज करने जा रहे हैं, तो आपको बहुत नोटेशन यूज करना है. आप कैपिटल लेटर को स्मॉल लेटर से आप रिप्रेजेंट करोगे, my dear friends. Be careful. That's very important. And हम इस डायरेक्शन को OE ले लेते हैं. Let us A point, this is B point, and this is C point. So OA is a direction, my dear friends, in which P1 is acting. In line of action of P2 is O to B. OB is my dear friend. And line of action of P3 is OC, my dear friends. So now, what we are going to do now, by using this graphical approach, first you need to assume some scale, my dear friends. Some scale is assumed. Is assumed. हम क्या कर रहे हैं? Let us suppose P1 is something. Let us take, let us assume P1 is equal to some X centimeter, my dear friends. P1, P2, P3, theta 1, theta 2 will be given to you. Be careful. P1 value, P2 value, P3, theta 1, theta 2. These values will be known to you, my dear friends. Known values, be careful. These are known values. Be careful. So, आप P1 को x सेंटीमीटर मान लेना और ड्रॉ कर देना, my dear friends, along OA direction, but in small letters. Now we will show small letters, my dear friends. Be careful. So let me take here. So what will you do, my dear friends? Now draw P1 graphically in this direction OA. Be careful. And taking magnitude, some take its magnitude in some centimeter, my dear friends. Okay. So let me take this arrow first. Okay. So we need to take some scale here. Okay. Be careful. First draw it. Okay. Very important, my dear friends. So some x centimeter you will draw first. That will take it to same color. Okay. X centimeter. Small letter O and this is small a, my dear friends. Be careful. In those notations. Capital. Then take next, my dear friends. Now draw letter P2 in direction of OB with respect to a right angle theta, my dear friend. Okay. So what you need to do? Here you need to draw this. Okay. Be careful. And let me take over there a line like that. And what is this angle, my dear friends? Theta 1. This angle is theta 1. Be careful. Okay. So now next draw, my dear friends. Next is P3. Very important, my dear friends. Now P3 you need to take them. Okay. And what is P3 then? Very important. Okay. Draw this force, my dear friends. Let us suppose this is what P3, my dear friend. This is P3. This is P2 we have drawn. Now draw a line over there, my dear friends. Something like that. This line is parallel to this line, my dear friends. Okay, be careful. So how much this angle now? From there to there. So this angle is how much, my dear friends? Be careful. You need to take theta 1 plus theta 2. Theta 1 plus theta 2, my dear friends. So first draw a line, this line parallel to this line. First from there, this point. Take this point as 3 points. Small letter, my dear friends. Be careful. Okay, then take at an angle of theta 1 plus theta 2. You need to draw then P3. Like converting first it into scale value in centimeter, whatever you take. This is P3 now. Now what will be its resultant, my dear friends? Now what you need to do? You have to join O with C, my dear friends. Finally, what you need to do? Join O to C. O to C, my dear friends. And this then OC vector will be the direction of resultant, my dear friends. R, whatever you take. Okay. And its magnitude and its length, my dear friends. And its length of vector OC, length of OC vector will be the magnitude. Will be magnitude, my dear friends, of what? Let me take this color. Will be magnitude of resultant, my dear friends. R. Be careful. So now what you need to do, my dear friends, you need to just join it, okay? So let me take it first, okay, different color. So what you need to do then, take a different then this color, okay? And make it a vector, okay? Join big thing, what happens here? Okay, just to click okay. Okay. Join this with this, my dear friends, okay? So what is this, my dear friend? This is the resultant R, O to C. measure this length. You need to then measure here. This value will come into centimeter. This value in centimeter. Then convert it into Newton or kilonewton or kgf, whatever given initially. Be careful. सो आर की वैल्यू हमें पता लग जाएगी माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। तो आपको यहाँ से एंगल भी मेजर कर लेना है। दिस एंगल विद रिस्पेक्ट टू व्हाट यू आर टेकिंग OA, OB, OC with respect to P1, P2, P3 you are taking. Just measure from there. Let us suppose we resultant direction with respect to OA, my dear friends, in clockwise direction. So this angle, let us suppose, is nothing but this angle is what? Theta, my dear friends. Measure this angle, my dear friends, from the graph with the angle measuring device, whether it is protractor. Okay. So this is what analytical method, my dear friends. Graphical method, sorry, my dear friends. Now let us move to next analytical method. Okay. So very important, my dear friends. First, I need to take. Now we are going to do what? Analytical method, my dear friends. Okay. So let us suppose this is vector we are given with. Okay, then another vector is given P2, and let us suppose this is P3, my dear friends. Okay, be careful. These are acting at a point here. Let us suppose O point. Okay, let me take one particular direction over there. OX axis, my dear friends. Now I am taking OX axis, my dear friends. Okay, be careful. And let me take here also. Here also OY direction, my dear friends. Be careful. This is what OY direction, my dear friends. You can take it down also. That's not a problem, my dear friends. Here and there also, my dear friends. Let me take it properly, my dear friends. Okay, be careful. What is this? This is X dash, my dear friends. This is Y dash. So Y dash, X dash. These are rectangular axis, my dear friends. Be careful. Centroidal axis we can take on a body. And what are there, my dear? I am showing you that body, my dear friends. You will get UG. And this is what? Let me take a different color first, my dear friends. Different color is there. This color is different. Okay. Let me take what is happening. Yes, this is what? This is the body, my dear friends. Or this is point O, my dear friends, on body. Be careful. Okay. Or this may be a particle also, my dear friends. Or a particle you can take. That's not a problem. So now, हमें क्या given है, my dear friends? This value is like this is P1 vector, my dear friends. This is P2 vector. This is P3 vector, my dear friends. Be careful. ये angle आपको given है, let us suppose. This angle is theta 1. And this angle is with respect to OX is theta 2 of P2, my dear friends. And angle of P3 with respect to OX in clockwise direction, something like that. Just 1 minute. This angle, you are also given with this angle, my dear friends, theta 3. Be careful. Now let us suppose इन सभी का resultant somewhere यहाँ पर है कहीं पर. Resultant, their resultant is somewhere. You can take here or there, my dear friend. That's not a problem. Here or there you can take. So there is a resultant R. Okay. R, which we need to find out, my dear friends. Be careful. We need to find out resultant R. Be careful. Now let us take. This is R, my dear friends. Be careful. Somewhere. So now this is what approach, my dear friends. First, second, analytical method. Analytical method of finding the resultant, my dear friends. Analytical method. So now ये method क्या बोलता है हमें, my dear friends? Resultant will be the resolved component of resultant along OX direction, my dear friends. what we say? The algebraic sum of the algebraic sum of the resolved components. The resolved components. The algebraic sum of the resolved components of the forces. P1, P2, P3 forces, my dear friends. Be careful. Forces P1, P2, P3 forces acting at a point simultaneously. Acting at point simultaneously. Acting on a point simultaneously, my dear friends. Simultaneously will be equal to the resolved in a particular direction. You also need to take them, my dear friends, in a particular direction, in a given direction. So let me take it. That's very important, my dear friends. 1 minute, just 1 minute. Let me write this over there. Point in a given direction, my dear friends. In a given direction. In a given direction. Acting on a point in a given direction simultaneously will be equal to the result part. Will be equal to the result part of resultant, my dear friend. In same direction, my dear friends. In same direction. This direction, my dear friends, be careful. OX direction or OY direction. What direction this, my dear friends, if you take OX direction? So then result parts of P1, P2, P3. And so if you take algebraic sum, then will be equal to what? Result part of R in that particular direction, my dear friends. OX, be careful. So now अब हम क्या करने जा रहे हैं, my dear friends? So what we are going, very important, my dear friends. Now try to understand. Now I am going to draw a line over there like that, my dear friends. Perpendicular to X. Be careful. Draw a line from this point at of this P1 vector, my dear friends, over there. Draw it, okay? Or you can take A point, this B point, my dear friends, this C point, and this is let us put D point. Okay, be careful. So draw a vector from A point, or draw perpendicular from A on OX, my dear friend. Be careful. Now in right angle triangle, let us put this is N point. So in right angle triangle, OAN, my dear friends. In right angle triangle. In right angle triangle. OA, my dear friends. OAM. So in right angle triangle, OAM, my dear friends. What will be this component then? OM, my dear friends. Now resolution, resolved part of P1 along OX direction, my dear friends. What will be that? Resolved part of P1, Px along this direction, that is Px. What will be that? P1 base by hypotenuse, that is cos theta. So P1 cos theta, my dear friends, be careful. Similarly, Px, P1x, my dear friend, then P2x, my dear friends. When you will take unit right, very important, my dear friend, that will be equal to what? P2 cos, this is theta 1. So be careful. This is theta 1, my dear friends, okay? P2 cos theta 2, my dear friends. Like P3 x result the component of P3 along x direction, my dear friends. Be careful. That is P3 cos theta 3. Okay. So what you need to do then? Take now result part of R. Let us that is summation x. What is this? Result part of resultant, my dear friends. Resultant R. along OX direction. Along OX direction, my dear friend. Be careful. These are also resolved parts, my dear friends. These are also what? Resolved parts of P1, P3. Resolved parts of P1, P2, P3, my dear friends. Along what? OX direction, my dear friend. Be careful. So in same direction, you need to take the resolved part of R. In OX direction, be careful. Same direction, use OX direction there and there. So this one. So now what will be this, my dear friends? What will be this, my dear friends? This will be R cos theta. Be careful. This would nothing. This is R cos theta. Now very important. What is this angle, my dear friends? Then theta. This will be from here, my dear friends. This angle would be from there. This angle from there to there, theta, my dear friends. Be careful. Very important. Think clockwise sense. This angle you need to take. Now, similarly, summation y you take r sin theta. Here, that's not and there this component along y direction of this P1, P2, P3, P4, my dear friends, along y direction will be. Here, what will be this component here of this vector, my dear friends? That is P1y. This was P1x, my dear friends. We have taken this P1x. This is P1y, my dear friends. So perpendicular by hypotenuse is sin theta 1, my dear friends. This is sin theta 1. Be careful. So similarly, you will take components in OY direction, my dear friends. So P2, P1y will be equal to what? P1 sin theta 1. Then P2y, P2 sin theta 2. Then P3y, P3 sin theta 3, my dear friends. In which direction? In OY direction, my dear friends. Resolved parts. These are resolved parts in these are resolved parts. So these are resolved. These are resolved parts of P1, P2, P3 in OY direction. P1y, P2y, P3y, like that. Okay, because we use by trigonometry. So now what will be then? Now according to this algebraic sum, my dear friends, be careful. Algebraic sum of resolved parts. What is that? Then it means summation x will be equal to P1. Summation x will be equal to P1 x plus P2y, P2x plus P3x, my difference, and so on. Like that. And summation y, summation v, take it, take. And summation v. You take sometimes summation y, you can also take. That's not a problem. Don't get confused. Just these are we are taking from our side. Okay. So this is summation v. We are taking it from our side. We can from my difference. Don't get confused. This will be equal to P1y plus P2y plus P3y. And then so on, my difference. So now what will you do? You need to find out R value, my difference. R value will be equal to what? Sum of square root of square root of square root of square of sum of square root of sum of square of summation x square and square of summation y square, my dear friends. Be careful. This plus this. Be careful, my dear friends. This is R. So यहाँ से आपको R की वैल्यू पता लग जाएगी, my dear friends. बस आपको क्या निकालना है? Summation x निकालना है, summation v निकालना है. ये आपको given होंगे, my dear friends. These values you would be able to find out. Then put here, and then you would get to know summation x, summation y first. You will first find out this value, then find out R here, my dear friends. Resultant की वैल्यू आ गई, आपको फिर निकालना है इसका एंगल, my dear friend. How much it is making this value, tan theta, like that, my dear friend. So what will be that angle of inclination of resultant? That is theta with respect to x, my dear friend. So you need to find out theta value. So theta you need to find out. Be careful. So then theta will be equal to summation of tan theta perpendicular by base y upon this component, summation of v upon summation of h, my dear friends. Here you will get theta value, my dear friends. theta value will come there when. Be careful. Now ये my difference भी है हमारे एनालिटिकल मेथड के बारे में था, लेकिन थोड़ी साइन कन्वेंशन आपको बता देता हूँ, उसके बारे में आपको ध्यान रखना है। और एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज बताता हूँ मैं आपको, क्या डिफरेंस इसी के बारे में, रिजल्टेंट के बारे में। आगे बढ़ते हैं अभी, 2 मिनट लूंगा बस अब आपके लिए। तो रिजल्टेंट जो हमने निकाला, summation of x square, summation of v square, my dear friends. तो ये अभी हमने फाइंड आउट किया। सपोज रिजल्टेंट की वैल्यू, सपोज r वैल्यू कम्स 0 or when r will be 0, my dear friend, when r will be equal to 0, only if and only if and only if, my dear friends, summation x is 0, summation v 0, my dear friends। मेरा कहने का तात्पर्य, my dear friends, r तभी 0 हो सकता है जब ये दोनों रिजल्ट कंपोनेंट P2P3 के जो हैं इनकी वैल्यू क्या हो, सेपरेटली अलग से क्या 0, समेशन एच और समेशन वी सेपरेटली दोनों 0 हो, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, तभी r 0 हो सकता है। क्योंकि अगर समेशन एच की वैल्यू, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, 0 नहीं है और समेशन वी 0 है, देन r की वैल्यू विल नॉट बी इक्वल टू 0, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, पुट देयर r 0 नहीं आएगा। अगर समेशन वी की वैल्यू, दिस इज केस फर्स्ट, let us suppose this is case 2, we are taking summation h is 0 but summation v is not 0, my dear friends, be careful, then also r would not be equal to 0, my dear friends। Case 3, summation h is not 0, summation v is not 0, then also r is not 0, my dear friends। And case 4, summation h is 0 and summation v is also 0, then only, my dear friends, then only and only r will be equal to 0। And what does it mean, my dear friends? Then P1, P2, P3, this process, this means, my dear friend, this implies P1, P2, P3 are already what? In equilibrium, my dear friends, are in equilibrium। What does equilibrium? Net force is 0, my dear friends, net force is 0 always of these forces। If forces are in equilibrium, then the resultant or net force, my dear friend, will be 0। What is net force? Another, what we say, this net force, that is nothing, resultant, my dear friends, be careful, that resultant r is 0 if forces are in equilibrium। Otherwise, what will happen, my dear friends? Non-equilibrium, this case is will be non-equilibrium, my dear friends, then this implies P1, P2, P3 are in non-equilibrium, my dear friends, non-equilibrium, be careful। Why non-equilibrium, my dear friends? Since r is not 0, my dear friends, be careful। Now let us move to sign convention very fast, just time taking, okay। So आपको क्या चीज ध्यान रखनी है, मैं जो चीज बता रहा हूँ उसके अकॉर्डिंग आपको जाना, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, वेरी सिंपल, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। So let us take this x, 4 point, this y dash, this x dash, my dear friends। So what will happen? See, summation x पॉजिटिव होगा, summation v भी पॉजिटिव रहेगा फर्स्ट क्वाड्रेंट में, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। सो फिर हम x की वैल्यू पॉजिटिव लेते हैं, बी केयरफुल, नेगेटिव ये पॉजिटिव और यहाँ नेगेटिव, बी केयरफुल, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। x की वैल्यू पॉजिटिव, यहाँ पर क्या रहेगा, हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट माइनस में आएगा और वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट पॉजिटिव रहेगा, बी केयरफुल। और यहाँ पर हॉरिजॉन्टल भी पॉजिटिव रहेगा बट वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट नेगेटिव रहेगा। रिजल्ट पार्ट्स, माय डियर फ्रेंड, उनका सम इन वर्टिकल डायरेक्शन हो भाई, बी केयरफुल। हियर समेशन इज नेगेटिव, समेशन विल बी नेगेटिव। मेरा कहने का क्या यही मतलब है, जब आप ये वैल्यू निकालोगे समेशन एच समेशन वी, सिग्मा एक्स सिग्मा वी की वैल्यू निकालोगे आप, और बाई चांस आपकी वैल्यू क्या आ गई, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, दोनों नेगेटिव आ गई, तो उनका रिजल्टेंट इसी के अंदर आएगा, इस क्वाड्रेंट में आएगा, बी केयरफुल। जब आप एंगल निकालोगे tan थीटा, तो आपको ध्यान रखना, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, summation of v by summation of h जब यहाँ से आप वैल्यू निकालोगे थीटा, तो आपको ध्यान रखना अगर ये वैल्यू और ये वैल्यू दोनों क्या है, नेगेटिव है, आ गई है माय डिफरेंस, तब थीटा की वैल्यू क्या आएगी, आपको बड़े ध्यान से आंसर करना है। यहाँ से आप हो सकता है थीटा की वैल्यू कुछ अलग निकाल दो, कुछ वैल्यू आएगी, लेकिन उस वैल्यू को बड़े ध्यान से लेना है। वो वैल्यू क्या रहेगी, ग्रेटर देन 180 रहेगी माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। व्हाई, बिकॉज वो वैल्यू क्या रहेगी माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, so let me take this, then result would be somewhere here my dear friends, be careful. So let me take this, the resultant would be in this here, okay, be careful. This would be the resultant R then my dear friends. So आपकी वैल्यू 180 से ज्यादा, क्योंकि हमें ये एंगल लेना my dear friends, ध्यान रखना है आपको। अगर एक वैल्यू आप 180 से ज्यादा ले रहे हो, तो आपको क्या ध्यान रखना है, आपको ये एंगल लेना है। फिर ये वैल्यू थीटा है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, बी केयरफुल। यहाँ से आपको बड़े ध्यान से करना है। यहाँ दो वैल्यू आएंगे माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, एक 180 से ज्यादा आएगी, एक 180 से कम आएगी। 180 से कम अगर ले रहे हो आप, तो दैट इज व्हाट दिस वैल्यू माय डियर, 360 माइनस दिस वैल्यू, बी केयरफुल। then that value would be what, this value my dear friends, that is what 360 minus this theta my dear friends, be careful. Here you need to select what value, theta 180 my dear friend, theta greater than 180। अगर आप कम ले रहे हो तो वो फिर ये वैल्यू my dear friends इस साइड से in anti clockwise direction from OX of resultant my dear friends, ये theta is in clockwise direction, be careful। आपको बड़े ध्यान से करना है, इनको देखना पहले आपको इसकी वैल्यू क्या आ रही है। अगर पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव आ रही है तो आपको क्वाड्रेंट सिलेक्ट करना है, फिर उसमें रिजल्टेंट आएगा, ध्यान रखना है। फिर यहाँ से जब निकालो तो ध्यान से भी वो वैल्यू है कितनी, बड़े ध्यान से। सो लेट मी draw, then this also there my difference, so resultant would be somewhere here my difference then R, so it would be there, the resultant and the resultant will be somewhere here, okay, be careful। so this is resultant R, this is R, this is R। ये तभी अपने ध्यान से करना है आपको। अगर दोनों कंपोनेंट पॉजिटिव है माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, तो रिजल्टेंट कहाँ पर आएगा, सिग्मा समेशन इक्वल पॉजिटिव है तो आर यहाँ पर आएगा, ध्यान रखना। फिर वैल्यू थीटा की ये बन जाएगी माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, दिस वैल्यू बिकम देन थीटा, बी केयरफुल। इफ दिस इज देयर, so then this value becomes theta then my dear friends, if you are finding here tan theta like this value, so this summation and summation b, this value is also positive and this value is also positive, then theta would be equal to which angle, this angle my dear friends, then this angle would be theta, be careful। this value would be what my dear friends, less than 90 my dear friends, theta it will be less than 90, be careful। so my dear friends आपको समझ आ गया होगा। सो आप सभी का आज की क्लास से लाइव जुड़ने के लिए धन्यवाद। कल फिर मिलेंगे, आज इवनिंग में लाइव आऊंगा, आज इवनिंग में लेक्चर नंबर 10 के साथ आने वाला हूँ। बहुत ही अच्छा टॉपिक रहेगा, इक्विलिब्रियम के बारे में भी पढ़ेंगे। सो बहुत डिटेल में स्टैटिक इक्विलिब्रियम, डायनेमिक इक्विलिब्रियम अच्छे से समझ में आएगा, ये मेरा आपसे वादा रहा। तो आप सभी का धन्यवाद, मिलते हैं जल्दी, सी यू सून इन नेक्स्ट क्लास माय डियर फ्रेंड्स।